I may be a blind film critic now, but I absolutely remember those haunting images in 2004 from The Machinist with Christian Bale when he looked like a death. I don't know how else to describe that. And because he had actually lost the weight for The Machinist. The crazy thing is, this is a 2004 film. Batman Begins came out the following year, so he had to go from this to that. He had to work his butt off and develop muscle and everything for Batman Begins. Blows my mind. Anyway, yes, so this is a review of The Machinist. So why don't you click that like and subscribe button? Go ahead and do it, because you know you're going to like it. You know you're going to like me. So click the subscribe button. And we're going to dive in to The Machinist, which is directed by Brad Anderson. I haven't heard that name in forever. I was like, what has this dude been up to? I looked at his IMDb resume, TV shows, and a couple of movies that I was like, I don't know if I've seen this. Like Vanishing on 7th Street, I always kind of saw that, and I was like, doesn't this star Hayden Christensen? I don't know what happened to his career, but he used to have a lot of promise. Session 9 was actually really pretty good, and The Machinist is, well, we'll talk about it. So, I don't know at what point he just got stuck directing episodes of TV shows, because he's been on a lot of them. A lot of ones I forgot existed. Anybody remember Alcatraz? So, yeah, he's been stuck in TV hell for a while. But this has audio description on MGM Plus. Look at that, guys. We got another streaming service that has at least some level of audio description. This is not the first MGM Plus film that I've watched. And so I've been searching for audio description on here for a while, and I finally found a title that had audio description, which made me search a little bit harder, and I found a couple others. It's not a huge amount of audio description. It's definitely not to the point where I would say, go out and pay that $9 from MGM Plus. I get MGM Plus as a Prime channel because it made sense to me, because Amazon bought MGM, so they own MGM, and I thought the integration would be nice, which obviously it is, because I'm getting audio description through the service. So I'm curious to know what their standalone, if you subscribe to just MGM Plus, what that is like. I don't know if that experience gives you audio description, but it gives me audio description as a Prime channel. So all of that aside, now I get to talk about the film with Christian Bale. It's weird. It's a weird film. I can see why Christian was attracted to it. It's one of those films that's so focused around one character that it has the potential to be a tour de force. I'm sure he thought, I'm gonna get an Oscar nomination, guys. It's a little too weird for the Oscar voters, especially the Oscar voters of 2004. You know, like nowadays, after Everything Everywhere All at Once, I don't know, but still we have a hard time nominating films, genre films. You know, I think everybody's still salty that Toni Collette couldn't get a nomination for Hereditary, or Lupita Nyong'o for Us. So I still don't think Christian Bale would have ever gotten. I can't see a world currently that we live in where he gets a nomination for this, no matter what year it opened. Not that it's not a crazy good performance from him, because it is. He plays Trevor, who is sleep deprived and weighs like 118 pounds or something like that. I was like, oh. Of course, that's what they say he weighs, and I wonder what he actually weighed to look like that in the film. I wonder what his true weight was, because there's a lot you can do with makeup and stuff, but he did get really pretty skinny there for that film. I just wonder if that's 118 pounds worth of skinny. So he weighs like the same amount as a small child, and he plays a machinist at a factory. And he hasn't slept in a very, very long time, and he starts sort of breaking with reality and seeing things that maybe aren't really there, and kind of making mistakes that lead to things happening, and he sees people and has conversations, but are those people real? Is there some sort of conspiracy? What's going on in his life? And we kind of devolve into madness, and crazy things happen. And he is the lead of the film, so he is essentially an unreliable narrator, because we do see things a lot from his perspective, but what he sees isn't always real, or isn't always the way he interprets it. So, and we see sort of how that pans out over the course of the film. And it does make for an interesting film that way, not being able to rely on certain facts when you're like, okay, so that just happened. Oh, it didn't really happen. Oh, that person was, oh, okay. You know, like, you get that a lot. One of the people who is in the film, other than Christian Bale, whose name you might recognize, is Jennifer Jason Leigh. She plays a prostitute that is sort of the confidant to Bale's character. I mean, he pays her, she comes over, they hang out. They seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company in a way where she's not faking it just for, you know, like, more money for the experience. She's not giving him the girlfriend experience. I think he gets some conversations in there without having to pay for them. So, which is weird because he's, like, wasting away. It's like, girl, pick somebody better. Pick somebody with some meat on the bones. And it's an alright performance from her, but this is Christian Bale's film. Do you like Christian Bale? Make sure to check this one off your list. That would be the answer to my question there. So, it was alright. It kind of walks the genre line. It never really becomes any genre. It's mostly a psychological thriller. I will say that it also does fall into horror, in that there are things in here that are horrifying, but are not scary, if that makes any sense. Like, it's never meant to be, but there are some things in here that are shown where you could find this. If we had our good old-fashioned video rental stores, you could wander the halls of Blockbuster and you might stumble upon this in horror. It's valid because there are some things that are shown that are horrifying, but they're not necessarily scary. If that makes any sense. It's not a scary film. You will not, unless you're just scared of really skinny people. It's not meant to be that. There are no jump scares. There's nothing that goes bump in the night. You know, there's no demon possessing anybody or anything like that. There's none of that happens in here. It's just, there are things in this film that earned it an R rating. It's definitely an earned R rating. So, and I don't want to go into that, but and it's not bones and all. Don't worry, he doesn't like suddenly start eating people either. It's not that level. That's you know, it's a different level. Like, there's two ways to use that word. I'm trying to say things without saying things. Although I am going to have to talk specifically about audio description in a minute, where I will reveal something about kind of what this means without, while also talking around it. And it's got a really interesting score to it. It's not the score I expected. It feels like a very Tim Burton score to me, and I was really intrigued by Brad Anderson's choice of music. The whole film kind of just had me intrigued. It was a lot of choices from a director who clearly makes interesting choices, which is why I wish Brad was directing more films and less random episodes of TV series. I think he's got something there. I think there's something in there. I don't know what film caused him, because I don't think this flopped. I don't think this was ever supposed to do a ton of business. So, I don't know, was he punished because his films, like, he's never really had a huge film. He's always had, like, these underground films like The Machinist and Session 9 and Next Stop Wonderland. He's never been given keys to the kingdom. So he went straight from these sort of low-budget films to uh, you know, TV show work. Like the next thing he directs after The Machinist is Surface, the TV series. I don't really see the correlation or the reason why, but anyway, I just think it's a career wasted. But it's the audio description. Okay, so let's talk about the audio description because it does exist, and thank you to MGM Plus for actually be joining the 21st century here and adding audio description into your service. I wonder if that happened as a result of Amazon purchasing MGM, and Amazon has audio description not just on their service but also on Freevee. So they were like, well, this other thing should probably have some audio description too. But however it got there, and there's at least some stuff on here which is better than nothing. It gives us a starting point to be able to push for more. Because if you watch content, like if I'm watching your audio described content on MGM Plus, it's showing some demographic back to them that somebody is clicking on this and using that track. And the more people that do that, then the more demand it'll show for that kind of content. But if that is not even there as an option to click on, then how are you supposed to know? So, this is, I believe, narrated by William Michael Redman. I will admit to the fact that I tapped out. I did a bad thing, and I did not stay for the credits. I tapped out of this. I was busy, and I had to move on to the next thing, and I couldn't stay. And I was pretty sure that I recognized that narrator's voice because William has one of the most recognizable voices in the industry. But I didn't stay for the company, so I couldn't cite the company that narrated this. Although that does really hint to me that this is newer audio description because this film's from 2004. So this isn't something from back in the day. This is somebody has decided to add narration, which is interesting because I don't think this one was a huge box office success. So kudos to choosing The Machinist. My only problem with the film, I think William does a great job of describing, and I should say his team too, the writers, the mixers. This is really well balanced audio description. It's really well produced audio description. I enjoyed the track itself and the way that it laid with the film. But my biggest problem with the audio description was not how William was describing Bale. Bale's stuff is all up at the front. He leans in as much as he can into describing the gauntness of Bale's Trevor. He actually uses the word gaunt at least twice that I caught, just to bring that in, just so that you understand what word would you use to this. Gaunt is the word I would use. But also the fact that you can actually see things like his spinal cord. He's so thin that you can see his spinal cord, or you can see, and he actually kind of plays with like his little bones like up in here around the neck and like his shoulder blade. You can like actually see the bones kind of protruding from the lack of meat on his bone, on his skin. So really just sort of freakish stuff of how thin he is. And there's a lot of detail that's put into that. There was one moment in the movie that I did not like, which is weird, but I'm never going to give anybody a total pass. You know, these, as much as I like a narrator or their work or their company or whatever, I'm never going to just be like, yes, guys, amazing work all the time. That's pointless. So we're here to make things better. There's a scene in the film, and this is spoilery, but I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to tell you whose it is. There's a point in the film when Bale is sort of having a breakdown, and he goes into the kitchen and he opens up the freezer, and then the audio description says it's full of fish, including a head. Now, when that was said to me, I assumed it meant a fish head. I assumed it meant fish heads, not a human head. I would have made that really specific that there was a human head, because I got really confused when the crap falls out of the freezer. onto the floor, and it seems to be that there was a human head in his freezer. Now the question as to whether or not that's even actually true is, this may or may not even be a spoiler, depending on how you interpret the film and Trevor's own state of mind. So he's kind of losing it at this point. So I don't know. But I think if the visual audience was able to tell, even if it had been turned around to where you couldn't see the face, you would still know it was a human head. I mean, like, there's a huge difference between a human head and a fish head. So, if you knew it was a human head, it should have been described as a human head in the freezer, because the way that it was described suggested it was a fish head. And then stuff fell out, and then suddenly there's a human head, and I'm like, where did this human head come from? Was that the head that you meant in the freezer? Were there not fish heads in the freezer? So, that's my biggest problem with the audio description, was that. Because I was a little taken aback. I was not expecting there to be, even though clearly that's what they meant. I believe that's what they meant, anyway, when they said head. Lots of things have heads. So specificity is actually really important with that. And that's what I mean by horror. There are horrifying things in here, but not necessarily scary things. So I don't think anybody would have been like jump scared by that. It's not a jump scare moment. So it's a weird film. But I've seen it now. And the reason I was attracted to it, the odd thing was I didn't even look to see if there was an audio description track. I was just going to assume there wasn't, because this is not the first MGM Plus film that I've watched. I was going to assume and then talk about why this film needed audio description, so that to encourage MGM Plus to add audio description. The reason I watched this is because a couple weeks ago, after watching one of the Dark Knight films, I did a top 5 performances of Christian Bale, and at that time, I admitted that I'd never seen The Machinist. So I thought this was really interesting. I was like, oh, here's The Machinist. And I was just looking for something random to watch on their service, to get another MGM Plus review in. And lo and behold, my random selection had audio description, and I was like, oh my God. So, yeah. So we'll see more of that in the future. I'm going to continue to review titles that do and do not, on just like I do for every other service, because it's important. I want everything described. I don't want to just give people a pass because they have, 5% of their service is audio described, or some low percentage. Somebody is still gatekeeping and telling us which titles we can and can't have, and I don't like that. So we're still gonna push forward, but at least we have somewhere to start here. So, all of that being said, The Machinist is a weird film. I can't ever see myself wanting to watch again. But I saw it. It happened. Christian Bale is an actor I like. He's not like my favorite actor, but I like him. I do enjoy his work. And I think probably I do believe when I was listing out his favorite performances, I think that the best performance he's given was in The Fighter. And this does not change that performance. However, this would have made a good run for a top 10 or an honorable mention slot. He really does put everything he's got into this role and really goes for it. So this is a film that I would say show up for the actor and show up for the psychological mindfuck it's going to be for you. It's decent. It's pretty good. It's not great. It's pretty good. So, all that being said, I'm going to give The Machinist a B+. So, with the caveat that I would never want to see this movie again. I'm never going to watch this again. So it's not a film. It's not a happy film. It's not. I appreciate the work that everybody put into it. It's just not the kind of film that you go, oh my God, I need to see that again. Does not cross my mind. It goes into the bin of films where I'm like, well, not purchasing that one on DVD. never never gonna pull that one out again. So yeah, so thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and hopefully we learned a little bit more about the Machinist today, and the fact now that MGM Plus has audio description. Look at that. It's another service with audio description. So we're slowly working our way through and branching accessibility out. Anyway, I also have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It lets you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org, where you can look up William Michael Redmond and see a bunch of things that he's narrated that are listed there. So that's it. I will review something else for you guys and see you on the other side. Or will I? I don't know. I haven't slept in years. Like Trevor.